Our protagonist Verden lies broken and bloody, the gasping for air men in a known as dark, oppressive chamber the Neos limit Mage. 70-second mana circuit oppressive activator chamber injection, and the researchers are debating whether to activate a magic circle to suppress his immune response, even suggesting another dose of memory expander. Verden's face is a mask of pain, his body racked with tremors as he continues to fight for every breath. The chilling scene is set in a grim laboratory, filled with strange apparatus and ominous cages. Even tiny ants crawl across the floor, oblivious to the horrors unfolding above them. Suddenly, a voice commands a forced activator response, and Verden screams in agony as blood bursts from his mouth. His chained hands rattle desperately as he begs his tormentors to stop, but his pleas fall on deaf ears. Balrog Beshes, annoyed by the noise, dismisses Verden's suffering, instructing a researcher to report back once the experiment is complete. Verden's body slumps, his strength failing, as he weakly questions his grim fate. He wonders why he's meeting his end in the very magic tower he once dreamed of joining, his aspirations shattered. A researcher yanks Verden's head up, forcing him to face his tormentors. The cruel researcher mocks Verden, asking him how it feels to be so helpless, reminding him of his lack of magical talent despite his intellect. He continues to gloat, pointing out how Verden's vitality and knowledge are being drained in this secret lab, as the other researchers snicker. "Where's that high and mighty act now?" he taunts, urging Verden to share some profound knowledge just like he used to. The researcher then dismisses Verden, deciding he's in no condition to respond, as an ant crawls past on the floor. Noticing Verden's gaze, the researcher snaps, asking what he's staring at, clearly irritated. He spots the escaped ant and immediately shifts his anger, berating his subordinates for their incompetence in keeping the lab ants contained. With a furious stomp, he crushes the ant, yelling that they are all useless morons. He then turns his cruel smile back to Verden, comparing him to the crushed pest, noting his lack of mana but concluding that this makes him an S-class test subject. Verden grits his teeth, a spark of defiance still burning within him. The researcher leans in, confused by Verden's faint mumbling. With a sudden surge of power, Verden's eyes glow with intense mana as he roars, "I said shut up." We flash back to Verden's past, a young orphan boy who dreamed of becoming a great mage and came to the magic tower, only to find his efforts futile. At 7 years old, his first magic aptitude test delivered a crushing blow. "You have no talent." Those words were a death sentence to his lifelong dream. Despite the setback, becoming a mage was his one and only dream, a dream he refused to abandon. So Verden continued to work as an errand boy in the magic tower, secretly devouring every magic book he could find. He meticulously memorized the entire library, confident that his intellect could overcome his pathetically low mana. His hard work paid off, and Verden finally achieved his dream of becoming a researcher at the magic tower. Verden shows his groundbreaking thesis to Rukard, who is absolutely stunned, declaring it the work of a genius that would be recognized by every magic tower, even by Tower Master Balrog Beshes himself. Verden thanks Rukard for verifying his thesis, but Rukard's expression suddenly shifts, a sinister glint in his eyes. Rukard confirms that he's the first and only person Verden shared his revolutionary paper with. "Is that so?" Rukard muses as a cup of coffee is mysteriously spilled over Verden's thesis, obscuring the details. Days later, Verden is outside the magic tower, desperately pleading for someone to believe him. His manuscript had disappeared the day before his presentation, and Rukard, his supposed friend, had stolen it and presented it as his own. Verden confronts Tower Master Balrog Beshes, explaining that he is the true author of the theory of multi-attribute continuity, believing Balrog would never tolerate such injustice. He eagerly offers to explain the entire theory, and Balrog's response is a chillingly calm, "Remarkable." Balrog's shadow looms over the hopeful Verden, remarking on the unexpected talent found among the junior researchers. With a sinister smile, Balrog invites Verden to his laboratory 2 nights later, under the dark moon. That invitation was a trap. Verden is violently thrown to the ground, reflecting on how he ended up imprisoned in the Tower Master's lab for the past 7 years. The researchers mock him, calling him a stubborn brat and promising to crank up the intensity of the experiments tomorrow. For 7 years, Verden was reduced to a menial worker by day and a torturous test subject by night. He was forced to create magic circles, inject experimental drugs into his veins, develop new potions, and ultimately give his life for the magic tower. Back in the present, Verden lies broken, feeling utterly empty. There's nothing, he thinks. A faint memory surfaces, children calling out to a young Verden playing happily. A younger Verden, full of life, runs to respond to a command, "Yes, sir." He remembers a girl making a promise with him to become great mages together. "Promise?" she asks. He sees himself among a group of aspiring young mages, all looking up at the grand magic tower with hopeful eyes. A kind mentor smiles at him, a symbol of the bright future he once envisioned. He reaches out, but the image distorts, his hand now bloody and scarred, a stark reminder of his present reality. Back in the present, Verden's vision blurs, his body fading, seemingly on the brink of death. He hears that familiar sound from the experiments again, but he's too weak to care. He contemplates giving up, thinking it might be better to just die. But a voice, or perhaps his own inner resolve, challenges him. "That's not how you truly feel, is it? You know better than anyone." The crushed ant, still twitching, is a symbol. The ants on the floor begin to wrestle, swirling into a dark, ominous mass. From the swirling mass of ants, a shadowy figure emerges, its glowing eyes fixed on Verden. The shadowy figure, a manifestation of his inner will, commands him to break your limits, as a powerful magic circle ignites behind him. Verden clenches his fist, a fierce determination returning to his eyes. Under the moonlight, a scratching sound echoes. "It's not over yet," Verden vows. The scratching continues on the magic circle, as Verden declares he's been sharpening the blade of his revenge for 7 long years, ready to hone it to perfection. He just needs to solve one final problem, the scratching sound intensifying with his resolve. Verden, covered in blood, scratches at the floor, realizing that against overwhelming power, even the sharpest mind is useless. With a fierce glint in his eye, Verden decides to defy his natural limitations, vowing to rebuild the entire theoretical framework of magic and perfect a method to reconstruct his own body. With a powerful slam, Verden activates the magic circle, ready to break his limits and begin his true journey. His expression unreadable, Verden reflects on his life's work, the theory of celestial reversal, the ultimate key to remaking his body into the perfect vessel head always dreamed of. Form, oppressive chamber, acknowledging the artifact that will finally allow him to wield magic, even if the process might shatter him completely. The grand magic tower stands tall against the morning sky, and Verden knows it in his bones. The day to set his audacious plan into motion has finally arrived. Experiment, and the heavy door swings open, revealing a path forward. An older mage, Balrog, scolds Verden for his injuries, calling him pathetic for being weakened by a mere experiment and reminding him not to slack off with the festival approaching. Verden's face, still marked with bloodstains, remains stoic and unyielding, absorbing the harsh words. With a quiet resolve, Verden simply responds, acknowledging Balrog's command. Later, Verden meticulously cleans a mug, his mind clearly elsewhere as another mage works in the background. He turns, a flicker of surprise in his eyes as someone approaches him. It's Roblin, a fellow mage with vibrant red hair, greeting Verden with a playful grin. Roblin asks why he's there, and Verden explains he wanted to bid her farewell before she departs. Verden smiles, recalling that Roblin is heading to Viant, the legendary city of magic, a prestigious opportunity granted only to the Magic Tower's most gifted students. He offers his congratulations, but Roblin's expression turns serious, a hint of something more on her mind. Extending her hand, Roblin reiterates her standing offer, urging Verden to join her on her journey to Viant. Verden looks at her, a complex mix of emotions playing across his face. Roblin blushes, quickly clarifying that she simply desires his company, but Verden cuts her off, calling her by name. With a gentle smile, Verden firmly tells Roblin that he intends to remain right where he is. A shadow of disappointment crosses Roblin's features, her hopes dashed by his refusal. Despite her sadness, Roblin promises to keep in touch, vowing to write to him. Her carriage departs, carrying her away from the Magic Tower and from Verden. Verden watches her go from his window, the sound of the carriage fading into the distance. He thinks to himself that Roblin has no idea of the dark secrets and struggles hidden within the magic tower. A determined glint in his eye, Verden urges himself to move quickly, reflecting on the hardships he's endured to reach this point. Chains rattle around his wrists, a stark reminder of his past, but Verden's resolve is unshaken. The city bursts with life, celebrating the Magic Tower's revival, a world-renowned festival that also marks the busiest day of the year for the tower itself. Inside the tower, Verden walks with purpose, his steps echoing softly. He knocks on a door, and a voice from within asks for his identity. Verden announces himself, and the voice grants him entry. Inside, Balrog sits, annoyed, questioning Verden's late-night presence, warning him of a beating if his reason isn't important. Verden explains he's there to clean the treasure vault on the Tower Master's orders. Balrog scoffs, criticizing Verden for not seeking permission in advance and dismissively calling him useless. He grudgingly allows Verden access but warns him not to damage or lose anything, to which Verden dutifully replies, "Yes, sir." Verden steps into the treasure vault, the door closing behind him. He places a small artifact on a pedestal, and with a surge of energy, it activates. Verden turns, satisfied that the artifact has successfully soundproofed the room, ensuring his actions will remain a secret. He descends a magnificent spiral staircase, each step taking him deeper into the heart of the vault, surrounded by countless ancient tomes. At the bottom, a powerful magic circle pulses with an ethereal glow, protecting something vital. His eyes land on it, the second circuit, a legendary staff. This artificial artifact, a masterpiece the Tower Master poured a fortune into creating, grants any mage the power of a triple cast and a temporary surge of strength. Verden declares his need for the staff to execute his plan, recognizing that he must first dismantle the formidable protection magic circle. He reveals he's dedicated 7 long years to studying how to break this very barrier, as sparks of raw magic crackle around the circle. With a surge of power, Verden vows to shatter Balrog's prized magic circle himself. A torrent of energy erupts from Verden, aimed directly at the shimmering barrier. The magic circle shatters under his assault, fragments of light exploding outwards as Verden roars in triumph. Meanwhile, in another part of the tower, bottles of expensive spirits line a shelf, hinting at a more relaxed atmosphere. 2 mages, Balrog and another guard, complain about being stuck guarding the power source while everyone else enjoys the festival, feeling like they drew the short straw. Balrog grumbles, convinced he'd have been chosen for the festivities if skill were the only factor, as he slams his mug down. Just then, Verden appears, and Balrog, seeing him, immediately orders him to fetch more booze. Balrog boasts that once he becomes Tower Master, he'll never settle for such cheap drinks, prompting a laugh from the other guard who doubts his ambitions. The other mage playfully promises to treat Balrog to a meal if he ever achieves his dream, but their conversation is abruptly cut short as the second circuit staff streaks past them. Balrog stares in utter disbelief as Verden stands before them, the legendary staff now firmly in his grasp. Fury contorts Balrog's face as he demands to know what in the world is happening. Verden stands calmly, holding the staff, his expression a stark contrast to Balrog's rage. Balrog, seething, accuses Verden of losing his mind, but Verden retorts, his gaze unwavering, that Balrog clearly didn't see this coming. Calling Verden a lowly thing, Balrog grabs his own staff, threatening to teach him a lesson and show him his place. With a powerful incantation, Balrog unleashes a devastating third-tier magic spell, Wave. Verden watches the incoming attack, his expression calm and collected, completely unfazed. The powerful wave of magic crashes down, tearing through the room with destructive force. Balrog stares in shock, utterly bewildered by what just transpired. He slams into the ground, screaming in agony as the force of his own spell is somehow turned against him. Groaning in pain, Balrog demands to know how Verden managed such a feat, given he's only a first-tier mage. Verden points the second circuit at Balrog, declaring this is the consequence for treating him and the entire magic tower as mere playthings. He drags the 2 defeated mages across the floor, clearing his path to his ultimate goal. Verden gazes upon the magic tower's true heart, noting that this is his first time seeing the power source up close. The magic tower's power source, a massive, pulsating purple heart, glows with immense mana, connected by countless conduits. Verden reveals his intention to use the power source's mana to execute celestial reversal, acknowledging the perilous risk of failure. With a dramatic flourish, he pulls back his clothes, revealing an intricate network of glowing magical tattoos etched across his entire back. He firmly grasps the second circuit, ready to begin the ritual. With a decisive motion, Verden plunges the staff into the ground, activating the ancient magic. Standing at the center of a powerful magic circle, Verden is engulfed in surging electrical energy, the ritual of celestial reversal commencing. Verden screams, consumed by brilliant light, declaring his rebirth as the entire magic tower pulses with an overwhelming, blinding mana. A new era is about to begin. Magical coughing force having listens just violently and swept through the area, gasping for air intently. Amidst the rubble, a figure struggles. Verden reflects on his life's work, the theory of celestial reversal. Clutching his chest, the man known as Verden, the limit-breaking genius mage, fights to breathe, his body still reeling from the ordeal. He watches as his hand dissolves into dust, chest a side effect of his desperate gamble, his body still reeling from the ordeal. Verden kneels, shirtless and weary, questioning if his ultimate spell, celestial reversal, truly worked. Suddenly, a bright, ominous light pulses in the distance, catching Verden's attention and filling him with dread. Magical energy streaks towards him, forming intricate circles in the air, and Verden's heart pounds as he realizes someone is rapidly approaching. A familiar, enraged face zooms into view. It's the Tower Master, the very man who imprisoned and experimented on Verden. The Tower Master, staff in hand, demands to know the source of the magic, his form blurring as he closes in on the weakened Verden. With a surge of power, the Tower Master's hand glows, ready to unleash a devastating attack. A massive explosion of magical energy erupts, engulfing the area where Verden had been. The Tower Master stands amidst the fading magical dust, his eyes blazing with fury. He spots a fading magic circle, realizing with a shock that Verden had used a teleportation spell to escape his grasp. Gritting his teeth, the Tower Master seethes, refusing to believe anyone could tamper with his tower and simply run away. He stomps his foot, dark magical energy radiating outwards, declaring that he doesn't care who his target is. Engulfed in a menacing aura, the Tower Master vows revenge, whether it's the Emperor himself or just a puny little kid. His rage explodes, his voice echoing with raw power as he screams his intent. Lightning cracks across the sky, a testament to the Tower Master's wrath, as he promises that Verden will pay. Meanwhile, Verden plunges into a body of water, the teleportation spell having worked, but with an unexpected landing. He surfaces, disoriented and shocked, wondering what happened and why his face feels so different. Verden touches his face, a look of utter bewilderment crossing his features as he tries to understand his new appearance. He notices his hair, once brown, has now transformed into an ash-gray hue. Fumbling with his body, Verden feels like a completely different person, yet he's certain that his celestial reversal spell succeeded, despite these strange changes. A quick flashback shows his desperate final moments, making contact with the power source, successfully casting celestial reversal, and then using a teleportation spell to escape the Tower Master's clutches. Now, kneeling in a vibrant, unfamiliar forest, Verden realizes he's never seen these plants before, confirming he's far from the Bohemian magic tower. A triumphant smile spreads across Verden's face as the full realization hits him. He might have teleported across half the entire continent. He throws his head back and laughs, a genuine, joyful sound of pure freedom, finally escaping his tormentors. Lying back in the grass, Verden taunts the furious Tower Master in his mind, knowing they won't be able to trace the destruction or his escape. Despite his victory, Verden sighs, understanding that this act alone won't be enough to bring down the magic tower forever. Back at the tower, the enraged Tower Master stands before the Omnipotent, a pulsating, heart-like magical artifact, the true source of their power. Verden sits up, his gaze filled with renewed determination, planning to use the tower's reconstruction period to grow stronger and prepare for his ultimate revenge. He holds his hand up to the sun, envisioning a future where he etches his new name, Verden the Mage, into the annals of history. With a confident clench of his fist and a wide grin, Verden bids farewell to Bohemiron, ready to embark on his new journey. Suddenly, the scene shifts to a different part of the forest where a goblin is crudely chopping wood, its axe striking with rough force. Verden, now clad in a stylish mage's robe, makes a swift, decisive motion with his hand. The goblin looks up startled, letting out a confused grunt as it senses danger. With a quick magical slash, Verden takes down the unsuspecting goblin, his new powers already proving effective. He examines his hand, musing that he doesn't detect any obvious side effects from his body reconstruction. Pulling at his ash-gray hair, Verden confirms his appearance is mostly the same, save for his hair and eyes, and notes his mana level is now far beyond normal limits. Verden nudges the fallen goblin with his foot, concluding that the presence of such monsters means there are likely no villages nearby. His attention is drawn to something on the ground, a subtle clue in the dirt. Verden spots distinct carriage tracks and a dropped crate, deducing that someone was in a hurry and lost their cargo. He activates his mana detection spell, his hand glowing as he scans the abandoned crate. The spell reveals a hidden magic circle on the crate, which then bursts with light, revealing a complex magical device. Elsewhere, a merchant frantically drives his carriage, cursing his luck and wondering how his situation spiraled so badly. He recalls his failed attempt to use Baron Paith's name to talk his way out of trouble. Even the mercenaries he hired had abandoned him, leaving him to fend for himself. A look of terror crosses his face as he remembers the true horror he's fleeing from. He vividly remembers the terrifying smiling orc and other monstrous figures that had ambushed him. He was thankful the bandits were preoccupied fighting the monsters, giving him a chance to escape. The merchant urges his horses onward, dashing through the forest path, desperate to outrun his pursuers. A guttural roar echoes behind him, confirming his worst fears. The monsters are still on his tail. He whips the horses relentlessly, screaming at them to go faster, his voice laced with panic. Suddenly, a loud crack signals disaster as one of the carriage wheels breaks apart. The carriage crashes violently, sending the merchant sprawling onto the ground, unconscious. He slowly regains consciousness, groaning in pain from his injured back. A gasp escapes him as he flinches, realizing he's not alone in the dark forest. Dozens of glowing eyes pierce through the darkness, surrounding him, with one pair of menacing red eyes standing out. Orcs and goblins emerge from the shadows, growling menacingly, and the merchant curses his fate, refusing to die at the hands of filthy demi-humans. A massive orc lunges forward, its sharp claws extended, ready to strike the helpless merchant. The merchant screams, his face contorted in absolute terror as the monster closes in. He winces, closing his eyes, believing his life is truly over. But just as the orc is about to strike, an earth wall erupts from the ground, blocking the monsters and saving the merchant at the last second. Verden stands triumphantly atop the newly formed wall, looking down at the trapped monsters, then realizes he forgot to leave an air hole for the merchant. The enraged orc turns its glowing red eyes towards Verden, realizing who its new opponent is. Verden, poised and confident, decides he'll have to deal with the monsters quickly before the merchant suffocates, noting this will be his first real fight since his rebirth. With a powerful surge, Verden's hand ignites with fire magic, ready to unleash his talent on the perfect number of opponents. Flames crackle and spread, consuming everything in their path. The forest erupts into a fiery inferno, a testament to the raw power unleashed. From atop a rocky outcrop, Asher surveys the chaos, as the demi-humans below are engulfed by his devastating magic. One massive goblin, however, manages to rise through the flames, letting out a guttural roar. Its monstrous brethren follow suit, their forms still intact despite the scorching heat. With a terrifying shriek, the large goblin charges forward, a formidable opponent. The ground trembles as the horde of goblins advances, their heavy footsteps echoing through the burning woods. They march relentlessly, their eyes fixed on the lone mage. The air fills with their enraged growls, a chorus of impending doom. Asher stands firm, the wind whipping his cloak around him, undeterred by their numbers. The goblins continue their advance, their roars growing louder with each step. He extends his hands, conjuring not just one but multiple flame arrows, empowered by a gust of wind. This is a double cast, a technique that allows Asher to unleash two spells simultaneously. With a surge of power, Asher unleashes a volley of scorching heat arrows. The fiery projectiles fly through the air, each one a miniature sun, hurtling towards the charging monsters. The goblins shriek and hiss as the arrows find their mark, burning them to cinders. Asher reflects on his newfound strength, marveling at how much he's changed since the days he couldn't even defeat a single goblin. The last of the monsters falls, and a gentle rain begins to cleanse the scorched earth. With the immediate threat neutralized, Asher realizes he needs to check on the coachman, Conrad, before he suffocates from the smoke. The carriage continues its journey, its wheels clattering along the path. Conrad, the coachman, beams with gratitude, declaring he'll remember this day for the rest of his life. He profusely thanks Asher, admitting he wouldn't be alive if not for the mage's intervention. Asher lets out a quiet sigh, while Conrad enthusiastically responds to his instructions. Conrad, ever the talker, asks if Asher was hurt, then quickly apologizes, realizing it was a foolish question for someone of Asher's power. Asher, slightly annoyed by the man's incessant chatter, simply groans inwardly. He recalls the brief moment of trouble he faced, a flicker of danger in the otherwise decisive battle. Suddenly, a chilling realization strikes him: one of the monsters is still alive. A shadowy figure lunges from the darkness, but Asher is quicker, conjuring a burst of light magic. With a swift, precise motion, Asher slices through the monster, ending its threat once and for all. A small, satisfied smile plays on Asher's lips as he looks up, the battle finally over. Asher asks Conrad if bandit attacks are common in this area, to which Conrad replies that they usually avoid places with demi-humans. Conrad explains that this forest falls under the Paith barony, and he has a long-standing relationship with Baron Paith himself. He further elaborates that Baron Paith had assured him the bandits in the area had been completely wiped out. This assurance led Conrad to hire cheaper mercenaries, only for them to tragically run into the very bandits they were told were gone. Later, while soaking in a bath, Asher muses on the need to keep his true identity hidden and focus on growing stronger. Conrad's voice breaks through Asher's thoughts, asking if he's still listening, prompting Asher to realize he hasn't properly introduced himself. A subtle grin forms on Asher's face as he decides that from now on, he will no longer use the name Verden. The grand gates of Baron Paith's castle stand majestically under the night sky, a murmur of activity within its walls. Baron Paith Henrode himself looks utterly shocked upon seeing Conrad, his face etched with concern. Conrad, ever the jester, scratches his head and laughs, claiming he lost weight running from the orcs. Baron Paith apologizes for his oversight and asks if Conrad was hurt, but Conrad reassures him it's not his fault. Recognizing Asher as the mage who saved his dear friend, Baron Paith declares that such a savior cannot go unrewarded. He instructs his attendants to invite Asher into the castle, extending his hospitality. Asher bows respectfully, expressing his gratitude for the food, clothes, and a comfortable room provided. Baron Paith, with a warm smile, welcomes Asher to his home. He formally introduces himself as Paith Henrode, the lord of the Paith barony, and invites Asher to take a seat at the dinner table. Baron Paith asks Asher if the food is to his liking, and Asher confirms it's excellent. As a token of his appreciation for saving Conrad, Baron Paith offers Asher a staggering 5 million elks. Then, rather suddenly, the Baron offers Asher a job, promising handsome payment. Asher, needing money for his goals and seeing an opportunity for combat experience, asks for more details about the job. Baron Paith reveals a grim discovery: the bodies of villagers from a ransacked village found hanging in the southern forest. The problem, he explains, is that despite a thorough search of the entire barony, no trace of the culprits has been found. Asher suggests the possibility of a mage among the bandits, to which the Baron agrees it's speculation, then asks when Asher plans to hunt them down. Baron Paith offers a confident smile, clearly pleased with Asher's willingness to help. The Baron announces the hunt will commence in 4 days, as knights prepare to depart from the castle. Enoch, one of Baron Paith's knights and the commander of the operation, introduces himself to Asher. He then introduces his fellow knights, Hears and the younger Ferric, who both bow respectfully to Asher. Asher shakes Enoch's hand, returning the greeting and introducing himself simply as Asher. He reflects on accepting the job for various reasons, but admits he didn't anticipate being thrown into a bandit hunt so quickly. Baron Paith suggests it's best to handle things swiftly, while Asher internally decides to view this as repayment for the Baron's hospitality. Asher inquires if the adventurers gathered nearby will be joining them, but Enoch clarifies they are there for reports of strange orcs. Asher deduces that the pay for this strange orc investigation must be quite high, given the presence of a gold-rank adventurer. He recalls that gold-rank adventurers are as strong as average knights, hardened veterans who wield kai in combat. Asher and the knights proceed through the dense forest, their footsteps crunching on the fallen leaves. Enoch turns to Asher, entrusting him with handling any mages among the bandits, prompting Asher to ask for the reasoning behind this decision. Enoch explains that while a second-tier mage's combat ability is similar to a knight's, their ranged attacks make them difficult for knights to counter. Suddenly, Enoch halts, his eyes widening as he realizes they've stumbled upon a magic circle right ahead. In a world where power dictates destiny, Liham stands at the precipice, his gaze unwavering as he navigates the treacherous path of a genius mage. For in this brutal reality, as long as you possess the skills, wealth and fame will inevitably follow, often leaving a trail of blood and sacrifice in its wake. Meanwhile, Knight Commander Enoch is absolutely livid, slamming his foot down in frustration. He rages about their dire situation, still recovering from Paith's knights, ambushed by orcs and goblins, and now, to add insult to injury, they're completely out of food. Enoch shouts at his men, demanding to know why they're standing around and ordering them to go hunt for more game immediately. His men, Barja and Bilshan, whisper amongst themselves, unsure of what to do and asking Enoch for his orders. Enoch, ever the aggressive leader, suggests they can catch their attackers off guard if they strike right now. But Asher, the mage accompanying Enoch, cautions him. He came along specifically to counter the enemy mage, but they still don't know the full extent of their opponent's power, warning that a misstep could easily backfire. Enoch, however, is insistent, arguing that they can't afford to let the enemy escape. Barja, the swordsman, steps forward, declaring there's only one way out of their predicament. He steps over the fallen deer, telling Bilshan to stop dwelling on their misfortunes and focus on their next move. Barja sighs, lamenting how a clown-looking orc managed to slaughter their men, reminiscing about his past as an adventurer and regretting the day he started killing for money. Bilshan suggests raiding another village, but Barja quickly shuts him down, reminding him that the Baron is already furious about the corpses they left last time. Bilshan then mentions they've been using a concealment spell to stay hidden, but it's time to move on, suggesting a nearby city called Martz. Suddenly, a fiery explosion erupts from the ground, catching Bilshan completely off guard. Bilshan cries out in shock, realizing it wasn't just an explosion but a powerful spell. Enoch and Asher are stunned, realizing their concealment spell has been broken and they've been found as a figure descends from above. It's Liham, the genius mage, raining down a barrage of magical attacks, shattering the ground and sending Enoch's men flying. One of Enoch's men screams in agony as Liham's attack strikes him down, blood splattering across the forest floor. Barja watches in horror as Bilshan collapses, crying out his name in despair. Barja quickly deduces that while a mana barrier is a quick defensive spell, it's not very sturdy and is easily broken. Then his eyes widen in realization. It can only mean one thing: their attacker must be a mage. Enoch, confident he has a grasp on Liham's power, tells Asher to take care of the enemy mage, while Asher prepares a powerful spell. Barja, seething with anger, realizes the Baron is truly out to kill them, having even hired a mage to ensure their demise. With a furious roar, Barja lunges at Enoch, their swords clashing in a shower of sparks. Barja threatens to send Enoch's head to the Baron for this little stunt, but Enoch just smirks, dismissing it as an empty threat. Meanwhile, Liham is on the run, deftly dodging Asher's relentless pursuit as the mage conjures an earth wall to block his path. Liham curses under his breath, annoyed that Asher is still on his tail despite his efforts to get away. He notes that Asher is using Earth Wall, which means he can't use Flight, a third-tier spell, implying Asher is only a second-tier mage. Liham decides that if Asher is indeed only second tier, this is the perfect opportunity to eliminate him right here and now, leaping into action. Asher, however, is ready, conjuring multiple flame arrows, preparing to unleash a fiery volley. Liham pants, pushing his limits as he narrowly evades Asher's scorching attacks. He thinks to himself that if Enoch the Knight were here, it might be a different story, but with just Asher, he's confident he can take him down and escape this cursed place. But Asher has other plans, his expression hardening as he makes it clear he has no intention of letting Liham leave. Asher acknowledges Liham's impressive talent. A second-tier mage wielding multiple elemental attributes at such a young age is a rare sight indeed. Yet a sinister grin spreads across Asher's face as he declares that it's a shame Liham's journey ends here, preparing a devastating spell. With a surge of power, Asher unleashes third-tier magic, ice falling, summoning a colossal shard of ice to crush Liham. The massive ice shard hurtles towards Liham, a chilling testament to Asher's true magical prowess. The ground shatters as the ice shard slams down, creating a formidable prison of ice around Liham. Liham looks up, his face a mask of utter disbelief and shock. Asher stands triumphantly amidst the jagged ice formations, having successfully trapped Liham. But he's not done yet. Asher raises his hand, conjuring Earth Spear, and sharp, deadly spikes erupt from the ground. The Earth Spears pierce through the ice, aiming directly for Liham, leaving him no escape. Liham is completely flabbergasted, questioning how a second-tier mage could possibly use third-tier magic. Asher simply smirks, asking if he's surprised. Asher taunts Liham, asking him how he thinks he managed to pull off such a feat, as more ice shards fly towards the cornered mage. And just like that, Liham collapses to the ground, defeated as Asher stands over him, the victor of this unexpected magical duel. Ferric reflects on his past life, remembering a mana circuit expander potion from his days in the Magic Tower, a time he never wanted to revisit as a subject of experiments. Back in the present, Ferric is clearly struggling, mana crackling around him as he pushes himself to the limit. He thinks about the mage he just defeated, confident that the potion he administered should have been enough to kill him, but he still needs proof to gain the Baron's trust. His eyes land on a peculiar item on the ground, wondering if it's the wand the defeated mage was using. With a curious hum, Ferric activates his appraisal skill on the glowing wand. The wand is revealed to be a mana stone staff, enchanted to slightly boost casting speed and the power of ice-type magic, which Ferric decides could be quite useful for now. Suddenly, a soldier dashes towards Ferric, calling out to him with relief. The soldier expresses his worry, having not seen Ferric after they dealt with the bandits, to which Ferric apologizes, explaining the mage was stronger than he anticipated. The soldier agrees, noting it must have been a hell of a fight. Ferric asks if they've finished with the bandits, and the soldier confirms, adding that Sir Enoch is currently handling the boss and should be done by the time they return. The soldier, with a wide grin, encourages Ferric to ask anything he wants. Ferric, with a gulp, inquires about the fate of the bandits' belongings, a hint of greed in his eyes. The soldier enthusiastically gives him the green light to take anything that isn't crucially important, much to Ferric's surprise. The Baron's aide, a smiling man, gives a reassuring thumbs up, confirming the soldier's words. Ferric, holding his new wand, feels a rare sense of being moved by their generosity. Sir Enoch approaches, expressing gratitude and acknowledging that Ferric prevented heavy losses, but Ferric humbly responds that it was a valuable experience for him too. Among the bound bandits, one reacts with shock and disbelief upon hearing that Bilshan is dead, blood trickling from his face. With a desperate glint in his eye, the bandit pulls out a hidden blade, declaring he won't die in such a backwater place with so much left undone. He lets out a primal scream, ready to go all or nothing, as Sir Enoch and Ferric watch the unfolding chaos. The bandit lunges forward, his blade a blur, aiming for a desperate escape. He dashes through the trees, realizing he's surrounded and can't break through without Bilshan's magic. Spotting Ferric and Sir Enoch in the distance, he concludes he has only one option left. He hurls his dagger with all his might, the blade whistling through the air and clanging off something unseen. Sir Enoch, with lightning reflexes, grabs the bandit's arm mid-lunge. The bandit is left stunned and disoriented, his weapon now gone. Sir Enoch swiftly spins him around and slams him to the ground with brutal force. As soldiers pin the struggling bandit, Sir Enoch chastises him for throwing his sword, questioning his honor. Sir Enoch laughs a chilling sound as he pulls out his own knife and asks what good honor is to the dead. The bandit looks up in sheer terror as Sir Enoch prepares to deliver the final blow. Sir Enoch then drags the bandit's body away, casually apologizing for the unsightly display. He explains that with more time he would have been cleaner, insisting he doesn't usually fight like this, but the other knight assures him it was still impressive. Another knight questions why they kept the remaining bandits alive. Sir Enoch reveals that some soldiers recognized a few of the bandits, suspecting they might be survivors from the recently raided village. They plan to take them back to the castle to confirm their identities and then decide their fate. A soldier barks orders for everyone to return to the barony and transport the captured bandits. One of the tied bandits is roughly pulled to his feet, trembling in fear. Suddenly, another bandit makes a desperate dash for freedom, screaming that he doesn't want to die, as soldiers shout for him to stop. Varric, ever calm, simply states that he will handle it. He then stops the soldier who was about to pursue, a strange feeling telling him something isn't right. The fleeing bandits' desperate cries for help echo through the forest. Varric's senses are on high alert, detecting an unfamiliar scent in the air. A powerful force rushes through the trees, making the leaves rustle violently. Varric and the knights stand ready, but a massive, ominous silhouette looms behind them. The ground shakes violently as the colossal figure slams down with immense power. The fleeing bandit is brutally crushed beneath the monstrous impact, his life extinguished in an instant. The soldiers are aghast, wondering what kind of creature this is, as Varric realizes this is no ordinary orc. Varric's face hardens as he observes the terrifying new threat before them. He concludes that the adventurers must have failed their mission, and this monstrous being is far beyond a typical orc. This must be a leader of those demi-humans, a truly evolved and dangerous creature, snorting with raw aggression. With a long, clown-like smile and a body twice the size of a normal orc, it's clear this creature has evolved into something far more deadly. The evolved orc lets out a guttural roar and points, commanding a horde of smaller goblins to charge forward. Sir Enoch quickly orders his men into a defensive formation, instructing them to take out the goblins first before tackling the massive orc. A soldier bravely clashes blades with one of the charging goblins. Another soldier is violently knocked back by an unseen force, grunting in pain. The colossal orc's foot descends, a terrifying shadow looming over the battlefield. It stomps down with incredible force, sending shockwaves through the ground and scattering debris. Soldiers leap and dive out of the way, barely escaping the crushing blow. One brave soldier manages to stab the orc's leg, drawing a roar of pain from the beast. Another knight slashes across the orc's arm, blood splattering from the wound. The massive orc stumbles back, momentarily stunned by the combined attacks. It lets out a furious, guttural growl, then suddenly grabs one of its own goblin subordinates. And in a horrifying display, the evolved orc devours the goblin whole, spitting out a bone, as Varric realizes this creature can heal its wounds by eating its own kind. It looks like they won't be going home anytime soon.